Warning: this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. I am a straight male who was sexually harassed by a gay man at work. I was 20, drinking my face off at a summer party with a bunch of my friends, when a girl who I had a sexual history with and trusted very much at the time decided that I needed a bit more to drink even when things were winding down. Fed me liquor until I was really too messed up to do anything. Then she helped me into the bathroom because I wasn't feeling so good, where she proceeded to cover my entire face and neck with lipstick marks. Earlier in the night she had been making jokes about trying to get with me, but I brushed them off and said sorry, no, not gonna happen, I've got a girlfriend now, that kind of thing to try and keep her at arm's length. I made the mistake of drinking too much, and as soon as she'd gotten me alone in the bathroom I was pretty well done for. Woke up around 5 a.m. next to her, both of us naked, in a mutual friend of ours bed. Got dressed, ran home and immediately blocked out anything and everything I could about the event. Lived in blissful ignorance of what actually happened to me until 4 or 5 days later when one of my friends brought up that I was most definitely sexually assaulted. Shocked me and hurt me to my core, but I genuinely don't remember anything about what happened after she took me into the bathroom, and a few days later she started saying stuff to her friends and people she knew that I'd taken advantage of her while she was drunk that night. The only thing that stopped a mob from trying to beat my butt was a picture my friend had the foresight to snap, me, very obviously KO'd on the bed, pants off, shirt still on, and her, looking right at the camera and covering herself up. Girl I sort of dated for a while, she was prone to getting drunk and angry. One night I had a few too many at a friend's party so I decided to catch a cab home. She followed me into the cab and said she'd crash at mine since hers was too far. I was really drunk by then so figured what's the difference. We got home and I lay down on the bed to pass out but she starts messing with my belt trying to open them. I ask what she's doing, and she says she wants sex. I say no, I'm too drunk, I just wanna sleep. My head was spinning and I just felt nauseated. She kept taking my pants off and put my penis in her mouth. I told her to stop what she was doing, but if I sat up I felt like I was gonna puke and I couldn't really push her away with the state I was in. She got on top of me and pushed my penis inside of her and rode me very aggressively, holding me down. I just kept telling her to stop, I'm not interested, I wanted to sleep. I ended up vomiting after a few minutes because of all the motion and she slapped me and started screaming at me that I was a sick F, what the hell is wrong with me, etc. She ended up telling heaps of people I vomited on her during sex, and I got a lot of jibes and teasing about it. It took me a long time to realize that I'd been raped due to the stereotype that men can't be raped, but it was a really messed up experience. Get ready to say WTF. When I was 12, my uncle's wife would have her way with me when he would leave for work. It happened maybe 7 or 8 times. She had seen a glimpse of me on accident while I was changing into swim shorts. I never had an orgasm, but she would go down on me to get me ready and get herself off. She kept asking my guardians, different uncle and aunt, if it was okay for me to come stay during the summer. I didn't know how to say I didn't want to go without revealing what was happening. Since my parents passed away when I was 7, I was always afraid of making a mistake and getting kicked out of my house. I was never adopted so they could collect a check from the state and release me into foster care whenever they were tired of me. I came up with the idea to get one of my cousins to come with me, and when he said he didn't really want to, I revealed to him why. I was hoping if he was with me when I stayed over she wouldn't come get me in the middle of the night. She did anyways, and while we were in her room, my uncle, I never knew had always been watching from outside, runs into the room and says that he saw my cousin peeking through the door. I'm looking at my uncle, not sure how to react, because I've technically been banging his wife. He went to check and see if my cousin was asleep and then told me to get to bed. A couple days passed and my uncle and I were wrestling after he had a little too much to drink and got really rough with me. He slid my face across the ground with my arms behind my back as revenge for pinning him. This I figured was the perfect excuse to never have to come back to visit. I ran away and called my guardians to come get me and explain what happened. Here's what's really WTF. I was 12 at that time. The secret came out when I was 15 to my entire family. Typical Hispanic family with lots of extended relatives. The way it came out was one of my older cousins heard about it and asked if it was true and I told him the truth. He said that my aunt used to do the same thing to him and so he felt compelled to say something to my guardians. Remember, I'm a ward of the state. A full-on investigation took place once my uncle and guardian reported the incident to my social worker. I had to tell my story 5 different times. My uncle when he asked for the truth, social worker, the police, my state-appointed therapist, and state-appointed attorney. I was ashamed and humiliated every time. Even worse, most of my family didn't believe me because I didn't report it right away. And since it was after the altercation with my uncle, the excuse I used to not have to visit anymore, my family thought it was some sort of revenge. During the investigation, the police found hundreds of pornographic home videos, swinging videos and other kinky smut. My aunt and uncle had their kids taken away for a short period and I took the blame for that as well. By the time I was 16, I had already been kicked out of my relative's house and was in a foster home, didn't mind much because strangers treated me better than my family who resented me for what happened. Because of this I shied away from women in junior high and high school. Went through my teenage years concealing my severe anxiety around women. It's really sad when I think back on it. Not because of what I went through, I'm fine. Received a scholarship for college and after graduating work for a great software tech startup. I have a girlfriend and a wonderful Doberman. I live a normal life. I have my down days and my up days like anyone else, I'm sure. I just wonder how many other foster youth in the system are taken advantage of and don't say anything for fear of what might happen. My supervisor continuously asked me on a date and I declined because I was busy. So she scheduled me off, came over to my house and told me I had no excuse. She paid for everything and I denied sex at the end of the night. I got fired the next day for something unrelated. Nobody believed me and I had to find a new job. I was 10 and she was 16. My first cousin who would invite me over to hang out constantly. Went on for years. I didn't know it counted as assault until years later because she was a woman. A lot of my anxiety issues are rooted back to her. She is still one of the most loved family members even after everyone found out the truth, and is why I no longer attend family gatherings to this day. People constantly blame me and say it's my fault our family has tension because I won't be nice to her or forgive her or just try to get along. I had a boss in hospitality who would slap my backside at any opportunity when I passed her. I asked the other staff, majority female, if this was common and they stated they'd only seen her do it to me. When she found out I had asked the other staff about her, she doubled down. Now she would grope or literally pull me into her for a forced hug where she would also grope me. As I was only 15 at the time, I didn't really have the capacity to know what to do in that situation, so I just froze up out of fear most times. Then I just stopped going to work without notice, so she appeared at my house screaming like a banshee that I was a piece of etc. I then got to witness one of the greatest things ever. My mom, who is a very timid woman most of the time, beat the hell out of that lady, total fatality style beatdown. I haven't seen her since, but I heard the other girls at the business all quit when they heard why I left, and she had to close the business. There was a freshman girl who followed me around everywhere when I was a junior in college. Party at the apartment I share with 3 friends. I get incredibly sloshed and put myself to bed. She shows up really late, sober as can be, and marches right back to my room. My friends thought I made a booty call. I'm just barely conscious. She gets my pants off and blows me until I have an erection. She rides me, while I'm doing absolutely nothing, until I get off. Inside her. She stayed in the next morning. I paid for Plan B with most of what was in my bank account at the time. Freshly turned 21, was at the bar with a couple buddies playing pool having a beer. This really haggard-looking older woman comes up behind me. I still wore baggy jeans at the time. She slid her hand down the back of my pants and grabbed my butt. I turned my head to have her screech in my ear loudly, "Your mama raised you right, I bet I could show you the time of your life." The entire bar just stared at us. I just laughed it off and she walked away. Buddies thought it was creepy as hell, lucky they don't give me crap for it. Mine might not be as traumatic as some in this thread, but here it is. Typical teenager talking a big game, gets girl into room in college. After some lackluster foreplay, she pulls my shorts off to see what she's working with. I decide I don't want sex, maybe just head is okay. This is the first woman I've been with, I'm terrified. She leaves for a minute, comes back with 2 friends. The 2 friends held me down while she had sex with me. I was 18. I wasn't intimate with another woman for almost a decade. I've been grabbed by so many old ladies at work, it's ridiculous. After the first couple it's halfway expected, so you get good at dodging it. But there's no one that'll take a complaint from a guy against an old lady seriously. I was about 6 years old, living in Colorado. My sister had a sleepover at our house, with 2 of her friends. I woke up before everyone like I always did. My morning ritual was sneaking Oreos out of the cookie jar and then watching mid-90s MTV on the floor with a blanket. My sister's 2 friends wake up shortly after. Both of them are about 3 or 4 years older than me. All I really remember is them trying to have sex with me, while I was too scared and confused to make them stop. We were in the living room, under the blanket while this all happened. The only reason it came to a stop was the sound of my father clearing his throat. I doubt this will be as bad as some of the incoming stories, but I'll share anyway. I wasn't assaulted, but I was in a situation that made me a little uncomfortable. I went to a birthday party of a girl I went to high school with, so naturally plenty of people from high school would be there. This was about 4 years after graduating. One girl in attendance was someone I used to have a bit of a crush on, so being a little more confident than I was in high school, I start talking to her and we're hitting it off. I excuse myself to go to the bathroom, and while I'm waiting I notice she has followed me. She walks into the bathroom with me and we start making out. Being a little drunk, I'm pretty into it. We're all over each other, so we get away from the party and take a walk down the road to a park where we end up having sex. We walk back to the party and rejoin the group. I'm trying to act all cool as if nothing happened, but she has her arms around me, which is fine, but it kind of felt like we were a couple in a weird way. This is where it starts getting a little weird. I'm standing in a circle with my friends and people from high school that I haven't seen in years. She starts rubbing my penis in front of everyone. I take her hand away from my crotch, but she immediately tries to grab me again. Eventually she just puts her entire hand down my pants and tries to give me a hand job, again right in front of everybody who can clearly see what is going on, and all look very uncomfortable. We're both pretty drunk, but I have enough sense to try and save her from really embarrassing herself, so I remove the both of us from the backyard, where the majority of the party is, and take her to the front yard. She keeps trying to entice me to have sex with her again right there on the front yard by taking her shirt off and exposing her breasts to me while there are people entering and exiting the party, many of which are parents. Every time I get her shirt back on, she just tries to show me her breasts again. They were amazing, but that just wasn't the time to be showing them off. She keeps saying let's F, come on let's F, but I said no over and over again, but she wasn't having any of it. If it were me doing even half the stuff she was doing, I would have probably been arrested. Through ages 7 to 13 I was molested ritualistically by a witch I still know. She had a smelly vagina and big labia that really turned me off. I enjoyed physical contact as I was adopted out of a Russian orphanage and had a pretty bad attachment disorder problem and a huge problem socializing. This meant I was an extremely lonely, literally making no friends until I started drinking alcohol. She would caress my inner thighs and I really enjoyed that for a time. She used to threaten to get me in trouble with my parents if I refused. It started with her waking me up very early in the morning and spreading my butt cheeks and patting them. It grew into truth or dare games that became sexual almost immediately. I first touched her bits when I was 7, and first inserted myself into her sometime later in the same year. By the age of 13 it became just blatant sex with a condom. I had to eat her out and it was vile, especially seeing the little traces of toilet paper in the folds of her labia, which I inevitably would try to wipe away but would be made to eat. One time she accompanied my family on holiday overseas, and I thought I came in her in a hotel spa. It was in the gym and nobody was around. When we got back home I carried a Stanley knife with me for just over a year in case I needed to kill myself if she became pregnant. I have a phobia of kissing now. I have a phobia of sexual contact. I have a phobia of any physical contact. I have tactile hallucinations of being touched fairly regularly that creep me the hell out. Everything seems sexual to me, from eating to touching anything. Even opening a door in front of someone I still, 15 years after the last encounter, I try to do it non-sexually. It might sound absurd, but it's an ever-present problem in my life. It means every time I eat I have to do it alone. It means when I'm in public, even though I'm clearly an adult, I still feel like I'm getting eye-banged by women all the time. What is funny at least is that I got bullied a lot in school and often people would tell me how I would always be a virgin. I was probably not a virgin long before any of those boys weren't, but I couldn't say anything. F her. Many years ago I was asked by my sister-in-law to give her a ride from the bar to back home. It was 2 a.m. and we were all awake at the house lounging in pajamas, sweats, etc. and playing games, so I volunteered. Hugged and kissed my wife goodbye and said I'd be right back. It was a very small town. I get to the bar, go inside and look for her, meet up with her and we leave uneventfully. In my car she's talking about her then boyfriend being a total dick, when all of a sudden as I'm driving, she reaches down into my sweats, pulls my penis out and starts trying to blow me. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? It's winter, icy roads, and I'm shocked she did this. I'm obviously getting harder and pulling off to the side of the road to stop her, When I did, I equated to what she did as rape. And she flipped out. I promised I wouldn't tell and she did end up apologizing to me afterwards. Moral of the story is men can get raped and sexually assaulted by women. Just because the penis gets hard doesn't mean it's consenting. I was violated by my sister-in-law. Told my wife and her response was she figured her sister would eventually try something with me. Wife was happy with my response and never told anybody what happened. She still can't trust her sister. I am a straight male who was sexually harassed by a gay man at work. This was in an office environment. I would constantly have my ass slapped because they looked too good not to. In my work pants, sexual comments were made daily and I had a video sent to me on Facebook that appeared to be normal but instead turned out to be pornographic at the end. I asked the person to stop, however they laughed it off. They were very popular around the office and everyone liked him. I told my boss, who also laughed it off and said it was funny. My boss was female. I told her she wouldn't have the same reaction if it was me constantly slapping one of the other girls' butts, but she said that was different. I no longer work in that office as I was promoted and moved to another department. Stayed over at a friend's house about an hour from my place. He really wanted a threesome with his, then living with him, girlfriend. The two of them decided I would be the third person, but neither asked or told me about it. Once the other people left his place, she starts getting real aggressive with me, grabbing my leg and talking dirty. I didn't see her that way and there was the issue of her being my friend's girlfriend. She starts talking about how I must be gay if I don't want to have sex with her, but that's okay, she is willing to share her man with me, so just hurry up, and take my pants off already. I shoved her hard enough to knock her over the sofa we were next to, and she got the idea. Spent the whole night terrified she would try something again, but nothing else happened that night. The next day I needed a ride to a bus station. My ride back home got in a fight with his girlfriend and left me there. The two of them said they had errands to run in town anyway, so they drove me. Their errands ended up being dragging me into a sex shop and making me go in with them as they bought toys, then heavily suggesting I go back with them rather than the bus station. Thankfully they listened when I made it clear how angry I was about the entire situation, and dropped me off at the bus stop without another word. I was in a club when I was 19. Spotted a girl nearby sobbing to one of the bouncers she'd lost her phone. Being a sympathetic chap, I had a quick scan of the dance floor and saw an iPhone that had been kicked into the corner. Bingo. Picked it up and went and presented it to her. She was very happy, so then grabbed me and put her tongue in my mouth. Now I know that's normally a positive way to reward someone, but I wasn't attracted to her, so for me it wasn't very pleasant. When I stopped her and said that's alright, I just wanted you to get your phone back, she got pissed off, slapped me across the face and walked off. There's been a few other things that are arguably more severe, but that's the one that's pissed me off the most. I had a woman roommate for a bit. I came home super drunk one night and couldn't get in the front door. She got me in, took me to my room, undressed me and gave me a blowjob until hard. Then put a condom on me and then had sex with me. I was nearly blackout drunk. I most definitely didn't consent. Woke up hours later with my pants off and a condom still on. I have brief memories of it. We had sex a couple times before, so I guess she thought it was okay. I don't feel angry or anything about it. But it definitely fits the description of rape. I was roofied by a Brazilian girl at Oktoberfest. We met and she offered to buy me a beer, which I thought was awesome, because I'd never had a woman offer to buy me a drink. Of course, being a man, I did not even consider the risk of being drugged. Oh boy, was that a mistake. She returns with said beer. I'd had nothing else to drink at this point. I begin to drink it, and I don't even remember finishing it. The next thing I know, two security dudes are literally dragging me by the arms out of the Biergarten. I can't even hold my head up and I don't know where I am or what's going on. I cannot speak and my tongue is literally hanging out of my mouth. Guess who suddenly appears? The girl. She said that I was with her, so they dragged me to her car, mumbling about how they hate dealing with drunk frat boys. I am unable to speak or offer any sort of resistance the whole time. The next thing I remember is being tied to her bed and then taken for a ride. I think I vomited at some point. She just cleaned it up and kept going. This felt like it went on for hours, but whatever drug I had been given really messed my brain up. The only other time I can remember feeling like that was when I woke up from anesthesia after having dental surgery. I woke up with my hands still tied to the bedposts, and the messed up part is that she then acted like as if this was a totally normal and fun situation. I was genuinely scared of what she might do if I did not play along, so I did. dying a little inside, in the process, until I could get away. My phone and other personal effects were gone, but luckily I had my wallet, so I was able to pay for a taxi to take me what turned out to be 30 miles to my home. I don't know why she felt like she had to drug me. I had no idea what was going on and thought I was going to die. Genuinely one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. And no, I didn't report it. Because who's going to believe me? I just swallowed the experience and moved on.